All right, this is our last section in chapter 9. This is the first time that we've seen an equal sign with this. Typically we would just see like 5 over 2x minus 2, and you would factor it and see if there's anything you can cancel out. But we are trying to get each of our problems so that it is a fraction equal to another fraction. Because if you have a fraction equals a fraction, what can you do to solve? What process? Cross multiply, okay, which is what we're going to do once we get it to a fraction equals a fraction. I'll show you what it looks like if it's not in that situation, but right here we have fraction equals fraction, so we're going to just multiply diagonally. Okay, so we have to make sure that we distribute our numbers through the parentheses, so you might want to add parentheses to remind yourself of that. So if we multiply this way, we've got 30x minus 30. What do we have this way? Minus 5. Okay, so we're going to pull everything to the right side because that's where our x squared value is, and we want to keep that positive. So we'll subtract 30x, and I'm going to add 30 at the same time. So we've got 5x squared minus 30x plus 25. Okay. What should we do first to factor? Take out the 5, yep. So we're left with x squared minus 6x plus 5. And now we can factor what's left in the parentheses there, okay? So we'll put our 5 here, negative 6 here. What are our two numbers? Okay. So we don't need to do the window step. So we've got 5 and then x minus 5, x minus 1. So what are the actual two number answers right here? Positive 5 and positive 1, because we set them equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so we've got 5 and 1. Now, up here in green it says to check to make sure it's not discontinuous. Now, discontinuous happens when we have an impossible fraction. So what can we never have in the denominator of a fraction? 0 is bad, okay? So we have to check to make sure that these numbers don't give us 0 on the bottom. So does 5 give us 0? If we put 5 right here, do we get 0? No. What if we put a 1 right here? Yes, we get 0. So 1 is not an option, only 5 works. Okay? So on the left here, you'll notice we don't have fraction equals fraction. We have fraction equals a fraction minus a number. Okay, so we do need to make sure that we have just a single fraction equals a single fraction. Now you'll notice here that we have the same common denominator here. So what we can do, instead of combining these over here into one fraction, which you can do if you get a common denominator, x plus 2, we could simply just subtract this fraction on the left-hand side, okay, because they've already got a common denominator. So if we subtract 3 over x plus 2, what do we really have when we subtract over here? What's the number on the top? Negative 7 over x plus 2 equals negative 3. Now negative 3 is the same thing as negative 3 over 1. So now we can cross multiply, because we've got a fraction equals a fraction. So if we multiply diagonally, making sure that we distribute here, we've got negative 3x minus 6 equals negative 7. Now we won't have to factor on this one because there's no squared term. Simply just get x by itself. We get 1/3. We do have to check to make sure that won't give us 0 on the bottom, so we look right here, and it won't give us 0, so it works as our solution. So So every single problem today, you're wanting to make sure that it's a fraction equals a fraction. We have that on the next one, so we can cross multiply right away. Again, it does help if you put parentheses around anything, just to make sure that you remember to distribute. So if we multiply diagonally here, we've got 2x squared minus 4, negative 2x plus 8. And we're going to pull everything to which side, the left or the right? I didn't hear. How come the left? Yeah, the x squared is over here and it's positive. We want to keep that term positive. So we want to move this and this. So now we have 0 over here. We've got 2x squared plus 2x minus 12. This one also has a GCF, so we won't have to do the window step. So we've got taking the 2 out. We put our negative 6 and 1, which is what? So we've got x plus 3, x minus 2, which means our two answers are what? Okay, if we look up here, are either of those going to give us zeros in the denominator? Nope. Okay, so then this one has two answers. Any questions on that? So really the only new thing is cross multiplying, and you already know how to cross multiply, so we're just kind of combining a lot of things that we've been talking about in chapter 9. We got one slide left for the chapter. We good? All right, so this one right here, we don't have fraction equals fraction. We've got two fractions on the left that we need to combine to put together. So we need to make sure that we have a common denominator when we add and subtract. So looking at 2x and 5x, what does this one need that this one has? Yeah, just the 5. Remember, we multiply top and bottom by whatever is missing. And this one needs what? Okay, so let's just rewrite it. We've got 5 over 10x minus 4 over 10x equals 1/2. So now we have a common denominator. We can put those together. So on the left, we really have what? Yep, 1 over 10x. So now that we have fraction equals fraction, we can go ahead and cross multiply. So we've got 10x equals 2. Divide by 10. We get 1/5. We make sure that won't give us 0 on the bottom. It doesn't, so we're good to go. Two left. All right, so we've got two fractions on the left here that we need to put together. Remember that this right here is a quantity in and of itself, x plus 1. Okay, so we can't just multiply this one on the left by 1, because that's not going to change anything. It's still going to be 4 over x. So we need to multiply this by what? Yeah, the entire quantity, x plus 1. And this one is missing what? Yeah. Okay, so let's just rewrite it. Keep them separate though. So when we distribute up here, we've got 4x plus 4, and we've got x squared plus x minus 3x over x squared plus x equals 1, which is the same thing as 1 over 1. Okay, so looking right here, what's going to be the fraction on the left here when we put them together? What's going to be in the numerator? We're subtracting. So x plus 4 on the top. The bottom stays the same, x squared plus x equals 1 over 1. So now we have our fraction equals fraction. So we go ahead and cross multiply. So we've got x squared plus x. Cross multiply this way, we have x plus 4. We can subtract x here. Gives us x squared equals 4. What can we do now? We can square root both sides. So we've got x equals. Now remember, anytime you square root within a problem, I told you this a couple months ago, you have to have plus or minus. Here's another reason why. At this point, we could have moved the 4 over and then factored this. What would the answer be for this? Yeah, x plus 2x minus 2, which means we get x equals positive 2 and negative 2. So when you square root in a problem, you have to have that plus or minus. There's actually two answers. So would either positive 2 or negative 2 give us 0 in the bottom on the original problem? Nope. Okay, so then both answers work. Questions there? All right, the last one. Right here, we need to combine these over here, but this right here we can factor. We actually just talked about it right over here. So what's our answer here? X plus 2, x minus 2. Okay, so let's ignore this for now and just look right here. So we want these to look the same. So this one on the left is missing the x plus 2 term. Okay, so we need to multiply this one by x plus 2. So make sure that you're factoring so that you're not multiplying by the entire quantity. That's going to make more work for you. So we just want to multiply by the minimum amount of things. So just an x plus 2 over here. This one doesn't need anything. Okay, because it's got both of those terms. So if we rewrite this, we've got negative 4x minus 8 up here. And then we can turn it back into the x squared minus 4. Equals 6 over 1. Now what is our numerator going to be on the left? No. Negative 10x, and then the 8's canceled out, right? We have negative 8 plus 8. Okay, so then we've got x squared minus 4, 6 over 1. Fraction equals fraction means we can cross multiply. So we've got 6x squared minus 24 equals negative 10x. We'll move this guy over. And then we're going to want to take out the GCF. What is the GCF here? 2 is the biggest one. Okay, so 3x squared, not 10, we got 5. Okay, so when we write our x, what's our top number? We got to take a times c, so 3 times negative 12. And then we got 5 down here. What are the two numbers? Yep, 9, negative 4. We need the window step. So we've got 9x, negative 4x. Then this original problem goes along the diagonal. Okay, so in common here we have 3x, negative 4, x, and 3. So our factored answer here, set these equal to 0 and solve. We get 4/3 and negative 3. Looking back up here, neither of those are going to give us a 0 on the bottom, so they both work.